And now's the time for Volume 12 for the Hiro Mashima series cover comparisons. I've done this obviously 12 times now, so I'll just TLDR what it is. Whenever a new volume of Eden Zero comes out, I compare it with the same volume number for Rave Master and Fairy Tail. Obviously, like Hiro Mashima, you can see like from the earlier parts, like the level of progress that he's made in art, as well as his choice of like what to put on the covers. And I have a lot of fun seeing exactly, what's different between each of them. What exactly is, differing in the design layout. What exactly is different in how each series is depicted from his art and his style. Now, this one is one I've been waiting for a lot of reasons, because just going into it, the Rave Master ones, like a lot of early Rave Master ones, are not bad, but obviously not very good in comparison to a lot of the others, or most covers, because Hiro Mashima was, I think, like 19 at the start of when he did Rave Master, so some of them are a lot more silly. Like there's like parts where like the cover is this Haru snowboarding or like being a DJ. It has nothing to do with what's in the volume. But look at like this one, as well as for Natsu, like that was during the Tower of Heaven, which is definitely one of the upper arcs in the series. Like obviously everyone really loved Jalal as an antagonist. He's even in that fact he's been way more of an anti-hero in the series. The fact that, he was such an interesting villain, and he had obviously a lot to do with Urza, it was really cool to see that, plus Natsu and Dragon Force. And then recently, obviously the one that's the most recent, Eden Zero, from the events that were, that took place in Volume 12, that he was going to be having his Demon King form on the cover. So that was going to be very hype, I think, even before we saw what the design of the cover was. But I mean, it didn't disappoint. It absolutely didn't disappoint. So let me talk about the covers first. Obviously, we're going to start with Rave Master. Like I said, Rave Master's early covers, some of them are questionable. Like, they look more like random Twitter drawings, or like some art in the back of one of the volumes. They're not bad, but they have nothing to do with what was going on in the series at the time. But this is probably the first one on the list for Rave Master volumes that I really, really like. I love the color with like the kind of one tone blue in the background, and the only other thing really is just like areas where it's a little bit lighter from just the shading of it. It's not like it's a completely different color. It's just the way that it's toned, and it has the Erasion 6 that were going on in Symphonia. So, I mean, that's cool as well, on top of, the fact that it's a really nice looking cover. This is where the Erasion 6 kind of thing started, because there's Erasion 6 in Fairy Tail, and there's Erasion 6 Galactica, as well as Erasion 6 Interstellar at Eden Zero. And this is where it all started from. And it's really cool that Hiro Mashima has this ongoing title sort of thing. It's sort of a title because they're different in each series. The Erasion 6 in Rave Master was like pretty much the elite guard of the leader of Demon Card. Originally it was, Gale Glory, aka King, and later became Lucia. And then in Fairy Tail, the Erasion 6 became the Erasion 6 because it was a placeholder name that went with the guild, and Hiro Mashima he said he didn't come up with a name he liked more by the time the deadline came up for the chapters where they were gonna get first really brought up. So he just went with it, and I liked it. Even if it wasn't intentional, he was able to take that ongoing thing and turn it into something more in Eden Zero, and I do really like that. But Haru on the cover is really cool. I really like Plu is randomly dressed up as a soldier with a gun, but Haru just looks like he's way more serious. He's way more charging into fight. He's way more prepared for a serious situation. And obviously this was after the stuff with his father, and going into more personal kind of his level of things with I gotta go back. I completely messed up the song. Let me see. Go on loop. There we go. When it comes to this whole events, though, also in Rave Master, this is where it became way more focused on Haru rather than it being kind of more of it became more about Haru as a hero than Haru as a kid in over his head, because all the way up through that arc with his dad, it was more like he was just, chosen for this position, but he was having a lot of trouble living up to it. And he was getting there, but still, it was, like I said, a boy in over his head, and that's really like how it felt at the time. And then after the point with his father, it became way more of Haru growing up and being able to, handle it on his own. Fairy Tail cover. This is still one of my favorite Fairy Tail covers. And when it came down to this volume, comparison, I knew this one was going to be a little bit... This is going to be a little bit hype. For in general, but the Fairy Tail cover I love so much. I love the layout of it. I love the background. It's like that starry night sky. I love the Jalal in the back, just kind of aiming towards Natsu, getting ready to go for it. Urza, well, even though she's not nearly in center focused, obviously, in this cover, but she's kind of looking a little bit upset, off to the side, and it shows. I think it shows how kind of beside herself, not obviously in the same way of looking over this side means that she was beside herself. No, she was very rattled in this arc and uneased, and I think that's what really kind of was felt here in this picture. But Natsu in this, Natsu looks so badass in this cover. I love it. I love he's got the Dragon Force scales, the very first showing of it. He's got the damaged clothing, but it looks way more it has so much more tone to it. He just looks so good on this cover, and the way that he's set in position with his flames riding up, but not kind of overtaking the panel, more of just it kind of onsetting. I love it. And also going to scarf too, it looks fantastic. The black lettering in the logo, or in the title rather, and the way that they always do different kind of colorings for the lettering of the Fairy Tail title, but this one just being all black, I thought just looked great. It just looks so good on this cover. I love it. It's one of my favorites still. Eden Zero, here's the hard part, because this is definitely the best Eden Zero cover so far. I think visually it looks awesome. I think Shiki represented on it looks great. I really like how Shiki's facial expression is in it, because when it comes to Shiki, I've said before, I think that he is going to be very different in his general tone in the series than Haru and Natsu. Haru was way more of a classic hero. Natsu leans more good, but he is more independent. The Fairy Tail Guild is independent. They are 100% fine going up against people who'd be considered good if it means that they're a threat to the guild. They don't care where you align if you are a threat to the guild. They will go after and stop you. It's in no way at that point about whose side who is on, or if they're good or evil. It's if they are a threat or enemy to the guild, they are an enemy, and that is that. They will not stop until their guild is safe again and their members are safe. But with Shiki's presence, I think, definitely comes off in what I would call an anti-villain. Is similar to how an anti-hero, you have a hero who does things with a bad method. I think Shiki is almost villain-like, but doing things with a little bit of a good method. And his face on this and his form, I think having this almost dark villain-like presence, and even especially in the chapter that this happened, it has that same villain-like tone to it. And then also if you go back and look at when he beat Kurenai, the way he looked down at her has it had a very Zera feel to it, and I always really liked that about that chapter, as well as what I really liked about the different kind of appearance that Shiki's in. Also the fact that his Demon King form, his hair grows a little bit longer, because I'm guessing in this overdrive variant that his, the further it progresses, the further his hair is going to grow out. Because that's one thing that I think everybody's really said about Shiki, is they really like longer hair Shiki more than the shorter hair version. But I think that the reason here Mashima cut it is because in this form, and as it progresses, it's going to be a longer hair form, and so it'll have way more of a visual difference in terms of base and when he puts this on, and it'll have a completely different tone than, say, Natsu, whereas Natsu, I mean, obviously his will eventually become way more dragon-like, but for the most part, like, he gains dragon characteristics. It's not like he has something like his hair grows differently and his outfit doesn't change like Shiki's does. But my favorite thing about this cover, because I like the setup, I really like the positioning Shiki's in, like the way that he is on the cover, but the background, like that kind of like dystopia red, is cool, but I don't like it as much as the night sky for the fairy tale background, and I don't like it as much as like the faded blue on the Rave Master background. But when it comes to the color choice for this, I would say, like, just on the total frame of the volume cover, I would say the Eden Zero one is my favorite in terms of the color choice. Because the gray, I think that grayish white, I think goes great with Shiki's form. I think it looks badass. And I think it really kind of like has this, like, you know, indication of it being almost morally gray that Shiki's kind of in while in this state. So that is fantastic, because that is really cool about the Eden Zero covers, is instead of something like the fairy tale one where it has a different, the titling is different, but in Eden Zero, it's way more of the frame itself is a different color, and the frame itself being a different color so far has always represented like different characters, like Homura's is like orange, and Shiki's general ones are either like the purple or green, but in this form gray and white, which obviously goes with the hair and just vicious face too. But like I said earlier, like I mentioned it in the start of this, maybe not start, but like halfway in, this is one of my favorite fairy tale covers even still. Like, we have so many canon covers, like even in the base fairy tale we have 63, we have multiple spin-offs, we have the 7 so far in 100 Years Quest, and still this is one of my favorites, because this isn't only one of my favorites in fairy tale, this is one of my favorite covers Hiro Mashima's ever done. I love this one. I love what, you know, the art that it represented. I love the way Natsu's on it, like how serious he looks, and it just looks amazing. I love this one. Like, I didn't really think that there was the potential really for Shiki to overtake, or rather Eden Zero cover to overtake this one for Fairy Tail one. Like, there's definitely other covers for Fairy Tail I really like that Eden Zero can definitely surpass it, and some Rave Master ones I like more than Fairy Tail ones, but like not this one. This is one of my favorites, like, in total. So that's it for this one. This one's a little bit longer because when it came to this one, I love each of these covers. Each of these are great. I love each of these covers. They look fantastic. They're fantastic for each of them. And I knew it was going to be a little bit longer just talking about them because of that going into this. Because this was what I mentioned in a lot of the previous volume cover comparison ones for Rave Master, because Rave Master has a lot of volume covers, like I said early, that I don't think look very good. That's probably just because Hiro Mashima was inexperienced at the time. And this is one that I always think of when I think of like a good Rave Master cover. This is definitely one of the best Rave Master covers in my opinion. And then obviously, like I said about the Fairy Tail and Eden Zero ones, like they look great too. They're fantastic. Anyway, other than that, though, comment below. Tell me your thoughts are about this, and which one is your favorite. I feel like a lot of people are really gonna like the Eden Zero one the most, because of just the different tone that Shiki has on it. It looks badass, but at the same time, like the Fairy Tail one, like the Tower of Heaven was such a great arc. I love that arc. It's definitely one of the more beloved ones in Fairy Tail in total. When we get to the Tartarus one, I guess when we get to the Tartarus one, we won't have Eden Zero, or we won't have Rave Master, so it'll just be Fairy Tail and Eden Zero at that point. But anyway, other than that though, comment below, thumbs up the video from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.